Coming up on MCTV this week, the Monmouth community hosted its annual Prime Beef Parade, and see what happens when a play is written, rehearsed, and performed in just 24 hours. This week starts now. Hello and welcome to MCTV this week. For Curtis Galloway, I'm Juliana Graff. To recognize Labor Day, Illinois State University's Dr. Kyle Ciani discussed working women during the Progressive Era. Ciani spoke about a topic not typically studied in labor history, but rather considered a social welfare topic. She introduced three groups of women: day workers, women adrift, and girls that made late 1800s society extremely nervous because they were working single women, not housewives having children. Their conditions are known through criminal and social welfare records. Ciani outlined the varying degrees of society's disdain for these women, including organizations' attempts to reform their inappropriate behaviors, such as not marrying and having sex outside of marriage. As a historian, Ciani's purpose in researching women's history is to show how today's workplace remains male-centric and to reform workers' benefits such as maternity leave and child care.
Often there's a plan, and we have sources to that. There would be a parole.
Before I went into history, I was involved with child abuse prevention, and I worked in other nonprofits prior to that. So I am very interested in social welfare and sort of the history of child care and the history of social welfare reform because of my experience with child abuse prevention.
The History Department's annual Labor Day lecture began in 2008 and aims to highlight historical topics by inviting the community to hear exceptional historians.
What happens when a play is written, directed, memorized, rehearsed, and performed all in the span of 24 hours? Fusion Fest happens. On Friday evening, September 5th, madness started for volunteer theater students to participate in plays created in 24 hours. Playwrights chose at random who would be the directors of the newborn play they would later create. Afterwards, each director randomly picked who their actors would be. Those actors also picked at random a line that had to be included in each play. Without wasting time, the playwrights quickly got to work. The next morning, the actors and directors were rehearsing and trying to get everything ready for that same evening. A total of 6 plays were perfected by then, 2 more than there were at Fusion Fest last year. Some actors commented that they were feeling anxious all day and wanted it all to end, while others were very excited or calm about their experiences. Director of Hamlet Episode 1, Adam Duffield, shared his experience.
I loved it. I did it last year as a director, and this year it was just as intense. Always that rush of adrenaline, even though I'm not on the stage. Directing is still the same because you never know what's going to happen. Is your show going to be a hit? Is it going to be a flop? So it was definitely everything I expected.
Tribes is the next theater production coming to theaters October 1st.
Last Wednesday, the Monmouth community hosted its annual parade as part of the Prime Beef Festival. Hundreds of people of all ages withstood the afternoon heat to line Broadway to watch fellow members of the community showcase their businesses and organizations. Marching bands from Monmouth College and local schools played a variety of hits, including Bruno Mars's song, Uptown Funk. Monmouth College students represented their organizations, such as Intercultural Life and MC Pipe Band, as a way to connect the college to the community. County Market, Subway, the YMCA, and the Maple City Tumblers were just a few of the many Monmouth businesses at the event showcasing this year's theme, Fun for the Whole Herd, while throwing candy and celebrating this local festival.
Our favorite candy. My favorite candy is a Pops. Oh, no, I'm a sucker. Mine is that candy.
The American Inn won the Best Commercial Float, the Girl Scouts won the Best Civic Float, United West Elementary won the Best School Float, and the First Christian Church won the Best Religious Float.
Students and faculty from the Summer Opportunities for Intellectual Activities project gathered in the library's art gallery to present artistic side of their projects. The projects focused on a variety of academic topics, with the exhibits displaying a more artistic approach to each project. While the forensics team chose to display excerpts from the historic Monmouth speeches, others chose to display paintings, sculptures, and other forms of media.
The idea is really great to allow us to reflect on what we did from a visual perspective, and so we were able to think about the materials that we could show to an audience that would visually represent the work that the students did, and I think that they did a nice job doing that.
The Sophia art exhibit will be going on until September 25th.
On Saturday, ASAP hosted the first trivia night of the year. Teams came together in the Highlander Room to answer questions in hopes of winning a prize. Categories included topics such as history, pop culture, and city skylines. First place winners received $15 Buffalo Wild Wings gift cards.
All our events are always free, and for stuff like this, we always try to do prizes. So we have an event for everyone, so feel free to come out because they're always free.
ASAP's next event will be glow-in-the-dark mini golf tonight in the Huff Fieldhouse at 8 p.m.
Taking a look at some events on campus this week. Friday night at 7 in the Highlander Room, Spectrum and the Intercultural Life will host Mike Ziri from Equality, Illinois on a seminar for What's Next for LGBT Equality. This event is part of Spectrum's Monmouth Equality Week. On Saturday morning from 10 to 3 on the Quad, Monmouth College hosts its 21st annual cultural festival featuring 3 international food, entertainment, and exhibits from countries around the world. And Saturday night at 7, Monmouth College will host its first ever public viewing at the new Adolphson Observatory using the college's new 20-inch Trubeck telescope.
Coming up after the break in sports, Fighting Scots football hosted their home opener against Central College. Scots football took to the field on Saturday for their home opener against Central College. A record under new head coach Chad Braun. After a scoreless first quarter, the Dutch struck first in the second off this 48-yard pass. After the extra point, Central on top, 7-0. The Scots would get on the board later in the second with a Danny Mazzalupo 39-yard field goal. 7-3 to the Dutch. On to the third, Tanner Matlick on a 1-yard run puts the Scots on top 10-7. That score would last until late in the fourth when Central's Zach Martinelli would make his longest run of the day. 99 yards to put the Dutch on top 14-10. With just over 1 minute left, quarterback Tanner Matlick would get this 18-yard pass off to Easton Shaber, who would score. Scots back in the lead 17-14. The Dutch weren't finished yet. With no time remaining on the clock, Aaron Marcellus kicks a 42-yard field goal, tying the score at 17-17, sending it to overtime. In overtime, the Scots failed to score. Now it was Central's turn. After a 6-play drive to the goal, Adam Lindell with a 2-yard run scores. Scots dropped their home opener to Central, 23-17.
I like the toughness, the grit. We could have folded tent, being down 17-14 there, and then we came back, got the lead again. And so, our kids are tough, and they'll respond from this.
The Scots have a bye this weekend and will face Carroll University on September 26th for Family Weekend. The women's soccer team took to the field for their second home game against the Elmhurst Blue Jays last Wednesday. The first half was composed mostly of midfield possession between both sides. The Scots had a great chance to take the lead early, but Andrea Correa's shot was brilliantly saved by the Blue Jays keeper. Elmhurst had many corner kicks during this contest, and in the 29th minute they capitalized with this headed goal. It didn't take long for the Scots to level the score thanks to a 20-yard blast from Doris Brooks in the 30th minute. We would go to halftime, level at 1. The start of the second half, we saw a large effort from Elmhurst keeping the Scots off the ball and attacking. Therese Brooks nearly had her second of the game if it wasn't for another superb save from the Jays keeper. The Blue Jays scored their second corner of the contest to take a 2-1 lead in the 55th minute. The Scots attempted to battle back, but in the end it wasn't enough as Garantino from Elmhurst scored a dagger to give the Blue Jays a 3-1 lead with under 7 minutes to play. Monmouth drops their second home game of the season by a final of 3-1. The Scots' next game is this Saturday in Mount Vernon, Iowa, with a kickoff of 12 p.m. That's it for sports. Here are the scores for this week. And that's MCTV this week. I'm Tyler Berneisen.
And I'm Curtis Galloway. Make sure you tune in next Wednesday for another new edition of MCTV This Week.
And I'm Juliana Graff. You can also find us on the web at monmouthcollege.edu/MCTV. Have a nice week.